contacting that referral, we advocate measuring that time in hours, not in days.
Hours or 24 hours max. Yeah.
Because you need to communicate. You're setting the tone with that potentially new client from the start. Like, hey, how I communicate is how I communicate. Like, I take this seriously.
Welcome to Pipelineology, the business-to-business podcast for agencies, consultants, coaches, and businesses looking to build a pipeline of hot prospects ready to buy their products and services. Never wonder where your next client is coming from. To learn more about our strategies, services, and for resources on building your sales pipeline, visit pipelineology.com. Now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Pipelineology. I am your host, Gary Ruplinger, and today I am pleased to be joined by Darryl and Jodi Beuckert from the Trust Method. Jodi, Darryl, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Glad to be here.
Oh, it is my pleasure to have you. I'm very excited for our discussion today and our topic. But before we jump into that, for anybody who's not familiar with you, could you just give a little bit of background, your story, and how you got here?
Sure. Yeah, we've been in the customer service space for 25 years each in various different things. Jodi,
that's really dating us.
I know. Past that. So Jodi has a past as an interior designer. I've worked for years as a commercial photographer. My previous career to that was, like, of all things, was actually in foot health. So, like, making orthotics and braces for people. So we have this very varied background that has brought us to working in the customer experience space.
Well, excellent.
Most recently, the thing that's kind of led to probably answering the question you're about to ask, but is what led to us sparking this idea is actually working in the charity space. We spent about 4 years living between our home in Canada and in Mexico, working with charities, build up, working in child sponsorship, like building up a system to help deal with the logistics of child sponsorship.
Yeah. So in 2014, we packed up our kids, we rented our house, we paused our businesses at the time because we were full-blown entrepreneurs at the time. And so we moved down to Mexico, and we weren't even sure why we moved down there. We just felt like it was something that we needed to do. We felt like there has to be more to life than just what we had going at the time, even though business was good. But we wanted to have a different experience, I guess. And we wanted to show that to our kids. And when we got down there, we started to meet all these amazing nonprofits that were feeding kids and helping them with their education, giving them shoes, giving them school supplies. And what we found was that they have these relationships with the donors that come down to visit them, because we were in the city of Mazatlan, which is very tropical. There's a lot of volunteers that come down to come and help. But we saw that they were this amazing organization, but we felt like if their relationship was stronger, what kind of impact would that make on what they wanted to do for these kids? And,
like when they came back home, you're down, say you're a snowboarder and you're down there for 2 months, and you have these amazing experiences because you can actually go make an impact in someone's life. And then you go home. If there's nothing to bring home with you, you just bring stories. And so if that, and then and there's this fall off where if there was more that they could bring home to excite other people, everyone could potentially win. More people coming, actually spending their vacation time helping people in addition to relaxing and enjoying the warm climate, like, they're being fulfilled as people. And obviously the people who are receiving the help are being fulfilled because they're having a need met. So this scenario where everybody could win if these ministries could share themselves more, these charities, just be able to help them connect the dots.
Yeah. And so we saw this amazing opportunity for these nonprofits to invite their donors into the process of working with them. Because if we can strengthen that relationship, then, like, they're in it together. And when we can do things together, we can be stronger and we can make more impact. So that left us very curious. And it wasn't until this past year that we realized, our work there brought us to what we have developed for entrepreneurs today. The process of inviting our best clients into our work and partnering with them, which makes what we know to be a stronger referral to grow their business. So that's a bit of a background.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's a really cool story. So I think that does lead in really naturally then kind of to this next to the topic of today's episode, which is getting referrals, which I know this is every business owner's favorite type of client, right? Is the person who's pre-sold. They already know, like, and trust you. Somebody said nice things about you. And today we're going to talk about how to actually get those people. So I guess my first question is then, where do I start?
Well, it's the first thing to start is like you've already you've said it in your intro, is that you have these people who have this experience, and it's just so natural for them to be like, oh my goodness, if you're going to sell your house, you have to go with this person. Like, they are going to give you the best. They're going to get you into the house that fits, not the one that gives them the best commission. If you're going to get your car fixed, your grandma needs your car fixed, this is a mechanic you can trust. He's going to do the right thing. We have these experiences that we bank, right? And we naturally want to share them. But when you look at how people share, well, there's a difference, right? There's some people share really emphatically, and some people are like, well, you could go here, or I don't really know. They're less willing to put their name on the line with it, right? So the very fact that things could vary that much means there has to be variables under the surface that change. Like, why is one person emphatic about a business and another person isn't? What's going on underneath the surface of that? Because like, one referral is not the same as the next, right? So that would be the first thing that I would get someone to understand, is it is not a static commodity, right? Even with one client who's referred you, that client will actually go, that relationship isn't static either. It's dynamic. It will change and evolve as the relationship with the business changes, right? And it can change to the positive, but it can also change to the negative. And so recognizing, like, hey, this is an ongoing dynamic relationship between not just two people, it's actually between three people, right? So you're my client, we've got this great relationship, I've worked, you're happy with how you serve, you're happy with the results, we've got that relationship. You have a relationship with a friend who's like, hey, I think that you need these guys, right? Because they helped me through a tough spot. Well, now that's two independent relationships. And now it's becoming this triangle. Hey, I'm going to bring you into this conversation. Literally nowadays, we do it in group messages, right? Oh, hey, I'm going to bring this person in. I'm going to connect you guys. I think that, you need what this person does. And I think I trust it, whatever. You're literally doing it in this 3-person messenger thing. But relationally, that's an interesting dynamic, because I'm still going to have a relationship with you, right? You're still my client. You're still going to have a relationship with your friend, or whatever that level is. But now there's this new dynamic between me and this other person. And if you study human nature, well, we aren't static. We're dynamic. We're complex. We have good days and bad days. We have experiences that set us off. We have baggage, right? We've been burned by the other person, 10 people in a row in this space or whatever. Like, between mechanics and used car salesmen, that's why referrals.
Yeah.
So the first part is just understanding, hey, there's a lot going on here. This referral isn't a thing, right? And when we recognize this isn't a thing that can be acquired, this is actually people, it means that relationship is what actually matters. So logically, if a relationship matters to you, then how you connect and how you show up is the way to influence it.
Okay, so it's not it's more about relationships than the, not actually a commodity referral thing. It's so how do we build those relationships to kind of move us towards this end goal of being the person that gets referred?
Yeah. And I think what I was going to say prior to that was that I think a lot of times we see referrals as a one and done. So we get the referral, and then we might think we might have gratitude, or we might just forget and we'll move on. which stops that relationship right there from growing any further. But then we have an expectancy that referral should grow over time, but we haven't done anything to nurture that relationship or provide it fertilizer for it to grow and evolve and change as these relationships change. So yeah, I guess, yeah, to answer your question on how do we develop these relationships, it starts from understanding what do our clients need from us, which is the biggest step, right?
Yeah. And so if you think about relationships that matter in your life, the ones that matter, you make space for, right? Hey, I got to remember to phone my mom because it's been a while, right? And it's the acquaintances that you drop off, or like that the childhood best friend that you don't really have a connection with as an adult anymore. And it's like, oh, hey, 2 years have gone by since we've connected, right? Those sort of things just happen. There's this sense of drift, but the relationships that matter, you make time for, you make priority for, right? You recognize, hey, it's a two-way street. I need to call you to get together for coffee, just like you need to do the same. And so the way to start leveraging this is putting yourself in a position of intentionality. So what do I need to do so that I actually pay attention to what matters in this relationship? As the business owner, that responsibility, that burden falls on you, right? Okay, someone has referred me. I need to acknowledge it. I need to take it seriously, because if I wait a week, what that actually can communicate is like, oh, I guess they don't really need referrals that badly, right? I wanted my friends, I literally did this with someone. Someone wanted their hedges trimmed like in a couple days because they had, I think they're having an event or something. And I'm like, oh, hey, I know someone who does this. I know that they need this side work. Tried to connect the dots, and like 4 days goes by and he didn't reach out to her. And meanwhile, she's moved on. And he's like, oh yeah, that's great. I'm like, dude, that ship sailed like 2 days ago. Right. And so there's like this, and in his mind, he wasn't being malicious. He wasn't being whatever. It was just, it didn't, because there wasn't anything binding him to it. It slipped his mind, and he didn't recognize the urgency. But the downside of that is like, it communicated to me is like, hey, I know that you need this, but you have to take it seriously, because if I'm going to put my reputation on the line with this person, like I look like a fool now, right? So I'm going to be reticent to put myself in that position again. And that person has moved on, so we've lost that opportunity. And so literally, I mean, we actually sell a tracking system, because we actually need a system to keep ourselves accountable and to get ourselves to connect. So it seems like counterintuitive to say, I need a system to be spontaneous, but that's exactly what we advocate for. The system gives you a structure to be like, okay, go make an intentional connection with this person because I put that thing on my calendar. Right?
Yeah. And on the other side of that, when we speak of relationship building, we see not only is that a huge missed opportunity, because we feel like if you are someone who serves people well, loves people, wants the best for your clients, you should be shared. And so that's where that opportunity comes in. And that's where relationship has the biggest impact. One of our clients, his name is Anthony, and he's come into our system, and he has started looking at his referrals, and he's having small conversations, and it's a very consistent process, but he's turning to like realize these relationships that he can build with his clients. And he was already serving amazingly, and he was already having connections.
And he was already getting referrals.
He was already getting referrals, like a lot of you maybe listening today. But now he can see all the opportunities that can open up over time because of what we've laid out for him to be able to tap into, I guess is the best way to say it. And now he, since last time I talked to him just a couple days ago, he's got referrals coming in here and there, and he's just so excited to have these conversations with these clients.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, he's like, oh, I just did this kind of follow-up that you taught us to do. And 2 days later, there's another referral, and it was a better fit than the last one. Right. Mm-hmm. And what's happening there when we're actually having these connections, we're inviting this person in, and they're seeing their value as the connector. Right. So, oh, hey, I remember what that was like. I remember the frustration of, whatever the industry problem is. And oh yeah, he really helped me through that. Well, I want that for my friend. And I'm empowered now as the referrer to be like, oh my goodness, I know who is going to help you through that challenge that you're in with your life. He helped me, right? And some of that gratitude definitely takes people there, but also like there's a subtle prompts of like, hey, remember when you were here? And like, oh yes, I remember. And it'll be like, hey, that person that you referred 2 weeks ago, they just hit this milestone. They just had this aha moment in our program. And they're like, oh yeah, I remember that. And then it's like, oh, I know someone else who's like that in that spot right now. And I get to help save them. Right. So they're now empowered. And this is where, like, circling back to the donor charity space, this is what we realized was this is the exact same mechanics, right? If there's an amazing charity that makes a difference for people, pulling people off the street, ending trafficking, whatever it is, why on earth would we not get ourselves behind that? Why would we not advocate for that? Right.
Especially if we feel invited into that
right?
process.
The more I'm invited into being part of and seeing what's happening, and hey, like Charity Waters, like here's literally the well, here's pictures of this going up, here's the impact, here's the stories coming from these families who are using it. And you'll likely never go to that city in Africa to see it, but you can actually be a part of it. Well, there's an addicting nature to be like, I want to be part of that change more, but I want to bring people into that change because I can actually see it. We're part of it, right? So if that works for charity, it should work for businesses that change people's lives or have impact on people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Because the same human qualities are going on there. We want to help each other. We want to help someone out of a tough spot. This is why you would pull someone out of a car wreck. This is why you would run into a house, to rescue a kid if it was on fire, right? We all have that in us. It's just been tamped down by, the used car salesman and those really sleazy experiences, right? But we have it. It just needs to be nurtured and brought out and celebrated.
I think sometimes we need almost the permission to show up human the way that, we feel is right to show up. And I think that's one of the greatest things about hearing some of Anthony's stories is he's getting all these referrals, even more so than he was before. And he didn't have to ask. He didn't have to feel awkward about it. He gets to show up with who he is, and he gets to communicate through his unique values versus maybe what the world tells us to do or your specific industry. So I think that's the impact
and
there that
the challenging part for entrepreneurs to swallow with this, and this is I think the conflict is in that moment. It actually isn't about you or your program or your business at all, right? It is about the person who's going to refer. They're the hero of the story. In the charity space, that's how you would coach a donor. The donor's the hero. The donor's the one who's making the difference. You're the vehicle for it, right? So what we saw in our time in Mexico was that charities where they were struggling was they're so busy doing the thing that they forgot to invite people in. They're so busy with the first sale and the fulfillment that they forgot to invite people in, or they assumed that people would just invite their way into it versus like intentionally making that, like, we are going to make it easy. We're going to pave the way for you to come have this experience. And so if you think about it that business ways, what we really need to do is pave this way so that advocacy is the natural byproduct, right? That because like I said, we have that innate thing that we do want to help and save people when we see them in trouble.
No, I love that what you're saying there. I mean, I know like that really resonates with me as well, is that if I'm going to refer somebody to a business, I'm doing that because I want to look good. I want them to come back to me and say, hey, thanks for referring me. They helped me out. They did that. I want to feel like, that's why I did it. Not really because I wanted to help the business out so much, rather than I think selfishly, I wanted to look good and do that.
Yeah, and that's not wrong.
No, it's so inside of our program, one of the things that we teach them why we use a system and tracking as part of connecting is that there's actual dimensions to why we do what we do. What was our motive? What are we looking for? Like in this relation, you just identified. Sometimes we refer because we like, hey, I want to be known as the people who know all the good people, right? So like it's a reputation thing. It's not wrong. It is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. Some people refer because I really want to help your business, right? I care about, I just referred my parents to something that was like on the topic of health. I don't want an affiliate. Like if that business came to me with an affiliate thing, it would feel wrong. That's not why I did it. Right. I want my kids to have more years with their grandfather. Right. So you would actually make it dirty if you offered me money. Right. What I want to hear the transformation story. I want to hear but that's not the case with every single, there are cases where that affiliate thing, I'm motivated by in business. We do lots of affiliate stuff. I'm motivated by that, secondary to like them getting help. Right. So even when it comes to that, the bribe part, you can incentivize referrals and you can do it in a way that still aligns with your ethics. And it's not that you shouldn't or whatever. It's just that it has to fit. Who is this person? And recognizing that for some people, you might actually lose a referral source because of how you did that. You might gain some others, but now you're potentially gaining people, depending on how you structured it, that are looking for the money from you, and they're not necessarily as invested in why you do what you do. Right?
Yeah, and I don't know about you, Gary, but I usually refer for a few reasons. So I resonate with what you said. You said I refer because like I want to feel good that I hooked them up to this great person, right? And so I understand that because I'm a huge connector. I love to refer things that I believe in and that I trust. But also I have a secondary motive, and it just depends on what it is. So do you find like you have secondary motives for why you refer? Is it sometimes like affiliate, or you just want to help?
It's interesting how that has evolved for me over the years. Is that in the affiliate space, if we go back to that, like for me personally, early 2000s, probably up till 2010, I was really big in that space. But these days, I don't do a lot of affiliate incentivized things. It's just kind of, I think it's the appeal of it is kind of lost. And oftentimes I will feel like, kind of like what you were saying, Darryl, is that if it was incentivized, I don't know that I would feel as good about doing it. And I would kind of feel like, is this a little dirty? Am I recommending these people because they're going to pay me versus this other one? So there's that turmoil in my head of,
here's the choices. This one's better, but this one actually pays a commission. And you're left as a person making a choice. Who do I recommend? Right. And so it says something about you. It says something about that relationship. Well, hey, if this was my friend, I would say this one. But if it's just the public, I would use this one. Like, you're making these choices yourself. I don't think, depending on how you structure things, you have to make a choice. You can actually, affiliates is a microcosm of this. It's a set of dimensions inside of what we've laid out in this system, but it's one that in the business space is huge.
Well,
you can do it. So like a simple mechanism, like you can only be an affiliate if you're a client, which means you've actually experienced what I do. Right. So that's one way to flip that switch, is like, it's not just some stranger who's pushing your product, even though they have no idea if it's a good fit or not. It's like, people who've been through it are going to know generally if it's a good fit. There's a bunch of ways to do it or not. It doesn't really, like, the great thing as a business, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think one of the sad parts is that I think we expect that if we do incentivize, it will guarantee these referrals. I know there's someone that just went through our workshop just a couple days ago, and he said we incentivize a lot, but we're not seeing the referrals on the back end. So it's just then it leaves the entrepreneur or the small business in a place of, they feel like they've served well, but they're not in control of the process to get these amazing referrals that they should be, especially if they're serving well. They love people, they do a good job, they have these amazing outcomes. You should be referred. And so it's kind of left him scratching his head, wondering, well, I'm incentivizing. Why is this not happening? So I think, one of the reasons why I think he bought our workshop, because he wants to understand, what can I do to, put a system in place that can allow me to, I think, being a little bit more in control.
Yeah. And so that's sort of what, talking about the dimensional part there's more than just money. There's more reasons that we do things. And when we understand that the money component in affiliate is just one piece of a bigger piece, when we figure out, oh, hey, I can do this and it still fits and my people are going to be okay with it, there's your answer. Or your business might be like, you know what, I have to take this out. This is not going to do what we want. I'm going to find a way to reward people another way, right? Once you understand the makeup of why people do what they do, you can actually make a choice that fits your business. And versus kind of what's out there is, the one size fits all. Like, oh, hey, here's how to do an affiliate program. I would look at that and say, well, it totally depends. What are you trying to achieve? What do you want? What's the relationship with your clients? The answer could be yes, do it this way. It could be maybe, it could be no. Like, this isn't going to be a good fit. It totally does depend on all of those factors. But the great part is, like, again, it's your business. You can, once you know how to do it, you can structure it so that it serves you and serves your clients.
No, I like that. So if somebody does, let's say, somebody sends you a referral and that person becomes a client, do you have like a recommendation of how do you appropriately thank the person who did the referring? Is it as simple as just actually sending them a message saying thank you? Is it sending them notes, sending a little gift? Do you have some recommendations for someone there to, I guess, well, I mean, the goal is if they referred is one, thank them, and then how do I get them to refer again?
Yeah. That is the crux of how our workshop and our tracking and connection tool work together. Is we actually built it to be as adaptable as possible, because I didn't want to tell somebody how to connect and when to connect, because it totally depends on the business, right? But yeah, there actually is a connection sequence that we advocate for. Jodi was telling a story about Anthony. His business, he'll probably have the average client, because of the length of, it's almost like a year of his program, he's probably going to connect with them at least 12 times about the progress of that referral. But it's structured in a way that it's just natural. It's just this natural thing that jumps into a conversation. And that's because of how his program is structured. That setup that he has isn't going to work for every business, right? But so starting at the start, I mean, contacting that referral, we advocate measuring that time in hours, not in days.
Hours or 24 hours, right? Max. Yeah.
Because you need to communicate. You're setting the tone with that potentially new client from the start. Like, hey, how I communicate is how I communicate. Like, I take this seriously. Versus like, people will post a vanity post. I'll be blunt with it. Oh, super slamming busy November, right? What that communicates, if you're not careful, is, oh, well, I have a friend who really needs help. If you're super busy, you're probably going to be distracted and you're not going to be able to serve them, right? It plants a seed of doubt whether or not this is a good time or should I even bother, right? Where with communication, hey, you know what? They're slow, they're busy, they communicate the same way every single time. I can count on them to respond within whatever frequency they make normal. So if you follow up with a referral within 24 hours, then you just do that every single time. That's just the way that it is. And people get used to, like, oh, hey, you know what? I know they're busy, but they're still, their system, they're on it. I can trust them, right? So we advocate for like a quick connection with whoever has been referred, and then connecting with the person who did the referral to say, hey, I met with them, or we've chatted, we've got a meeting in the books, like whatever your sales process looks like, you're communicating like, I've already contacted them. Like, I'm taking this seriously. I'm so thankful. This is huge. That should just be happening with everybody. It's shocking how often that doesn't happen. Right?
I'm jotting notes down myself because I'm hearing you say things. I'm like, oh, I have made some of those mistakes of not being in the hours category.
That's because we are human.
That's the biggest thing that it's the biggest thing that we have actually even just struggled to put the right messaging out on a sales page or in whatever we're doing is, this isn't condemnation. We have all done this. Mm-hmm. These are mistakes that literally every single person has made because we are not consistent. Mm-hmm. No human is consistent. We're not robots, mm-hmm. right? This is why we believe so much in systems. Is systems help normalize, right? On your best day, you don't need a system. You remember everything, you're firing, whatever. How many best days do we have? Let's be super, right?
As we're slurping our coffee.
So the system is made for like, no, let's make every day your best day. That's what you normalize. And some days that system you heavily rely on to get you to do the right thing. And other days they're like, oh, I barely even need the prompt. I've already done it before the prompt told me to do it. Right.
But like we said, with like Anthony's situation, if he's going to have like 12 connections in a year, how, even on our best day, how could we possibly remember where Gary is at with my connection with you, or like those dimensionalities that we chatted about? We can't possibly remember that, which is why we need systems. And systems allow us to show up as the best human, we possibly can, to give people a consistent experience.
So yeah, I mean, those are just connections that just should be happening. And again, like I said, it's shocking how many times they're not happening, but that's okay. If you do that, you're already well ahead. If you find a way to do those two things consistently and well and authentically, you're already like in the 80th percentile, right?
But then if we stop at gratitude, that's great. We have those few steps and we have gratitude, which a lot of us honestly do. But the thing we see is past gratitude. There is a relationship to develop that that not many people are taking advantage of. So that's where, from our nonprofits time and our time in the customer space, we see these opportunities to connect deeper with people. And it takes time. This is a process that can happen quick and consistently over time.
Yeah, I'm thinking about charity water right now. So you could leverage the front end really well and get someone to donate, because they have one of the best, most frictionless donation mechanisms possible. And you can organize a birthday, and my birthday money goes to that. And they're brilliant. And you could leave it there and it would be great. But then what they do is like, hey, you who donated in this batch, this is the village that got the well, and these are the stories of the people who are no longer walking 5 miles to get water. This is the change in health because they're drinking clean water, right? So they go that much further to connect you to what the outcome was, right? Now you're part of it, right? So in the business space, what you're trying to connect, and ideally this is really aimed at a client who's experienced it themselves. But even if they're not a client, hey, I've heard Gary is really good with this. I don't know for sure, but everyone that I know says that he's good. So I'm inclined to trust these other 10 business owners who know what they're talking about. You would get to share with that person who referred, here's why we do what we do. Here's how and this is the epiphany that they had along the way, right? So you actually get to educate your referrer if they don't know what you do, by sharing the story of the person coming through it, right? And so they're learning more about how you do what you do, why you do what you do. And also it's like, oh, I'm seeing this transformation in this person, right? Oh man, they're not at the office as much. They're actually coming to the kids' soccer games because they're not so stressed out about getting leads, because Gary's helped them smooth that out, right? So it's like, oh wow, it's not just leads for lead's sake. It's like, oh, that has totally changed how he does business. He's home more, he's home for dinner, whatever that is. Like, that's the thing that we connect with as people, which is like, oh, I know people that need to not be stressed about leads, or not, be at the soccer games or whatever. Like, I'm going to hook them up with that person. Now I'm the one who's like, I'm going to change your family life by doing this one simple thing. Because of being invited into this, I can connect the dot that you couldn't see. Right. And that kind of advocacy, like, and it isn't hard. It takes intentionality, but it isn't hard because we all have it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it does not have to be complicated. We do not have to tell amazing, elaborate stories, because, we are all busy, but it takes just a few minutes. But I think we underestimate the power of 30 seconds or a couple minutes of relationship building within our business, of seeing it as from a customer lifetime value.
Yeah. The power of story. So I had someone go through this and they're like, well, this is, like we've sketched out, okay, you're going to make about 4 contacts with this person over 6 months. Just telling them where the progress is. And so it's going to take a couple minutes to think about, okay, this is where, here's the story I want to tell. And then you got to record the video. And, we heavily advocate for putting videos into DMs as the easiest way to share something, right? Because then you can pick up inflection, just like we're talking on video, right? Picking up body language, inflection, and right. Not that emails are bad. It's just that it means that you read words through your own filter versus like someone is telling you and showing you their filter. But like, oh, that's a lot. I'm like, yeah, but what is a referral worth to you? So if I were to tell you that you're going to spend 15 minutes over a few months doing these little connections, but it means a $2,000 sale, that's the best.
Or 20,000.
Yeah. Like that's going to be the best 15 minutes you'd ever spend. Right. And this is somebody who doesn't need the long, elaborate sales call because they're already warmed up, because and they're warmed to that point where it's just like, hey, I want you to help me. Like, where do I pay? Right. Because all of that heavy lifting has been done by an impassioned referral. And that reframe is like, yeah, of course I'm like, if you can make that connection, like, yeah, I'll connect with this person as many times as possible to tell them stories if that's what's going to happen. Right.
Now that's brilliant. I think one of the really neat things I'm kind of hearing here is that you guys have a system, but I think when people think of systems, I think that, it kind of takes the personalization and the human touch out of it, where what you're doing is exactly the opposite. You're actually making a system to introduce the human touch and it kind of bring that into play more so than not having it where it was spontaneous.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. And it's why, like a system to connect, like it's almost as counterintuitive, or it's a paradoxical kind of phrase, because you're right. Systems feel like a dehumanizing thing.
They feel very boring, as a non-system person. Systems, if you're not a system person, not a tech person, it can be really boring. So yeah, we want to make sure, like I said, for someone who I love connecting with people, it allows me to be the better human, because I know that I have something to follow. And we kind of call it our pay by number almost, because we've laid it all out. We've done all the heavy lifting in a sense of like, what are the next steps that I need to do? And then it shows you what to do. And then you get to act accordingly to what you feel like is authentic to the way you would respond, or the story that you would tell, or, based off of your relationships. And I think that's the key, that we don't want to be telling people what to do or how to act. We just want them to have the ability to show up as like the best valued business owner, because I think sometimes we want everyone to see our value, but we can go about it in a way that really puts the attention on ourselves, not the others who help us get there. And like we said, we are all guilty of this. I used to do it in my past businesses. And
I was gonna say, like the home renovation space is like, this will be harsh. There's a lot of ego in that, right? Versus there's a power of saying, like, look at what this family has been able to do. It's totally changed how they interact. That's the story. That's the connection story. But so much is like, oh, look how perfect our millwork was, and look how perfect this design was, and I did it.
I knocked it out of the park.
Right. And that's often what our industries tell us to do. And we just skate over where the actual power was. The power was like, this family couldn't all sit at the table, and now we knocked this wall out, did this thing, and like they're together, and like their life has changed and their interactions have changed because we did what we did to give them a design that served their family. Right. And it's literally this one shift in focus. Make it about the change, not about how you did the change.
Yeah.
Right. And people will connect the dots. They'll they'll connect the dots. They're like, oh, only you guys could have done that, because no one else would have thought of that solution. Right. But rather than hitting you over the head with the fact that, oh, look how smart we are that we came up with that solution. So it's just a slight shift, and it comes from humanizing. Right. So again, coming back to the system we've designed humanizes the experience. And so literally, if you're listening to this and you're writing down notes and you have ideas, you can start this. You don't even you could come up with your own system to start with, and you're going to be treating people better. Right. And the great part is it's scalable. And yes, that does sound like I'm not even endorsing my own thing, but the great part's it's scalable, because you could do that and try it. Like go try it. literally go look at someone who's referred in the last couple of months and tell them how thankful you are, and tell them a story about what that person is now doing, or an epiphany that they had midway or whatever, and watch what happens. I guarantee it'll surprise you, because that person has never been thanked like that before, ever. They will light up. That is like social proof wise. That's the messages we always get. They're like, this is so much fun. I just talk about the change that this person has, and I just watch these people light up. And they're just so excited that they were part of that change. That is sitting hidden, and we've all missed it for years. But the power of that relationship has been there the whole time. It's just a precious few have actually been leveraging it, right? You see these people with these super impassioned followers, and I guarantee you that's what they're leveraging to do that, right? But the great part is it's scalable. So take out a paper and notepad, go back to the last couple of referrals, and just find an authentic way to connect with them. And you're going to get addicted to it. You're going to be like, oh, hey, if I just did a little bit more, I did a custom session with someone yesterday, like really mapping out a custom strategy for different things. And the temptation is like, I want, like, where's more of the tactics? I'm like, don't be deceived by the simplicity of this. Really, the only thing that you have to leverage more is starting to understand what story is going to impact this person the best, for them to be able to find more people like that. Like, that's the only little nuance that you're going to learn, but you're going to learn that from telling these stories. And so just let it progress and scale with you. And so, yeah, we have a workshop and a system that helps implement that. And it scales up, it keeps going. There's this rabbit hole can go as deep as you want it to go. But you're going to be making steps that are natural, right? Because every step is going to bring you back to your customer, serving your customer, connecting with your customer, investing in the relationship, investing in the change. And so as you do it, it will make sense to be like, I'm going to go a little further. I'm going to have more nuance in my follow-up. I'm going to have a different system, whatever the next product is, whatever it is, it just is going to take you that much further. The other thing that I really like about it, yes, we're in the referral space. So this isn't hey, you need referrals, not paid advertising. This works in concert with. You literally could build a business just with referrals, and if it fits you, that's awesome, because you actually have control of it. If you have paid acquisition, if you have other mechanisms, and you bring somebody into this experience and you design this experience intentionally, well, you just got more bang for your buck, because they're going to stick around and they're going to bring more people, right? So it literally works with the other things that you do. It's not an either or. That's
amazing. And the part I really kind of like about like your approach here is that it takes some of the kind of, this isn't kind of like the awkward ask everybody for referrals that kind of feels sleazy a little bit of, oh, somebody signs up with you. Hey, who else do you know that would want this? Which is one of those, like, if my car insurance person or something, it's like, who else do you know? I never give a referral on that, because I'm like, I don't know. I haven't even used this yet. I don't know how good it is.
Exactly.
and that's that's just a timing thing. Like, the timing is off. The question is off and the timing is off. Right? If I got a chance to use it, we had that with one of those to the door meal companies, and they were giving us 5 free kits for families, but they asked us like a day after getting it the first time. We literally hadn't cooked the meal yet.
Who do you know that I could pass?
And it's like the offer was super generous. Hey, they're going to get a week's worth of meals to try us out, and it's smart what they're doing, but literally the timing and the ask were off. If they had asked me a couple days later and they preface it by asking me, hey, what was your first experience like cooking that meal? And I connect with that. Hey, how much, was it great being able to have kitchen to plate in 25 minutes so that you could do more stuff with your family? Then it was like, hey, who do you know that could benefit from that, has a busy life or whatever? Guess what? I'm going to be thinking about people, right? And this is a big company that, in our opinion, is doing it wrong. They're close, they're super close, but they're just off a little bit because they're missing that connection part. And yeah, it could be that much more powerful, right?
Like you can say, we could talk about this all day long. We're very passionate about this. It's just, there's so many missing opportunities that we want people to tap into, especially, like I said, if people are doing great work, they they should be referred over and over and over. And it shouldn't be complicated, and it doesn't have to be hard, and it can take minutes once you understand what's happening within your relationships.
And it's an advantage that a small business has over a big business.
Yeah.
Right. Home Depot, Walmart, they have no idea who I am as a customer. Right. Where most people who are listening to this, you're going to know a good amount of your customers, if not all of them. And you have that ability to leverage relationship. These big companies don't, yet we're following what the big companies do, right? In the charity space, the charities were like, oh, I'm going to do what World Vision does. And like, they don't know us as donors. You know your donors face to face. Leverage that. Like, don't look at what someone bigger is doing and idolize it. You have an advantage they would kill for.
Yeah, it's very monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
We see what other people are doing, and what is going to work for them is not necessarily going to work for us. So just being like bringing that to the surface, it all comes back to having a system, relationships, and then operating within your values. That's the opportunity that we see for all small businesses, entrepreneurs, and consultants, coaches, for sure.
I love it. So I guess if there's somebody out there who's kind of hearing this and says they can see something there and see the power of this, if they want to explore this deeper, where should they go? Where should they go to kind of learn, where is the entry point for them to get in your world?
For that, we have a workshop that takes you through the foundations of this. So here's why to do it. Here's how to identify the dimensions I talked about. Here's like to understand the motives of why we do what we do. It also includes the connection tracking system. And that's at referralsonrepeat.com. And so it is designed, it's a low ticket, it's a low cost entry to get people doing this, because we want people served more than I want to charge $1 million for it. Simply because when you start doing this, you're going to do more, and we'll continue to develop it. So it's a super exciting thing. We're doing this from a place where everybody gets to win. Your customers win, your customers are involved, new customers are being helped. Like this isn't coming at the expense of anybody.
Awesome. So I guess for
.com is where our workshop is. So that would be a great starting point.
Okay, perfect. So we'll make sure we put that in the show notes. Again, that's Referrals on Repeat if you want to get the win-win-win for everybody. I know I'll be checking it out myself now. I want to explore this deeper too. So any parting words for everybody before we hop off the line here?
Oh wow, I probably said enough.
Oh yeah. No, not at. No.
I would just encourage people to start where they're at. Like take small, consistent steps. Reach out, show gratitude, tell stories of what that referral has done for somebody, and you can try that without even checking out our thing, and you'll find out that it works. And so then if you want to come with us, then we'll just help you do it further, faster.
Yeah, you can find me mostly on Facebook. So if you tried that, find me on Facebook. I'd love to hear how that experience went. So feel free to friend me on Facebook. We always love meeting new people. And we're grateful to spend this time with you, Gary.
Well, it was my pleasure. I'm so glad you were able to join us. Jodi, Darryl, thanks so much for coming on the show. This was great. And for everybody at home, again, that was Referrals on Repeat. Be sure to check that out. Thanks so much for coming on today, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Pipelineology podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and look forward to seeing you on the next one. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving us a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.